More than one source had talked freely to the facade, without fully comprehending the man beneath the image. When and if they did, Matt already had the story. When he chose, he could be charming, even elegant. But the good-humored blue eyes could turn to fire, or, more dangerous, ice. Beneath the easy exterior was a cold, hard determination and a smoldering temper. Matt accepted this with a shrug. He was human, and entitled to be ridiculous. With a half-smile lingering around his mouth, he turned to the woman seated across from him, Laurel Armand, with a face as romantic as her name. She had an aura of delicacy that came from fine bones and an ivory skin that made a man want to touch, and touch gently. Her hair fell in clouds of misty black, swept back from her face, spilling onto her shoulders. Hair made for a man to dive his fingers into, bury his face in. Her eyes were the color of emeralds, dark and rich. It was the face of a 19th century belle whose life revolved around gracious indolence and quiet gentility. And her voice was just as feminine, Matt mused. It turned vowels into liquid and smooth consonants. It never flattened, never twanged, but flowed like a leisurely stream. The voice, he reflected as his smile widened, was just as deceptive as the face. The lady was a sharp, ambitious reporter with a stubborn streak and a flaring temper. One of his favorite pastimes was setting a match to it. Her brows were drawn together as she finished the last line of her copy. Satisfied, Laurel whipped the sheet from her typewriter, called for a copy boy, then focused on the man across from her. Automatically, her spine straightened. She already knew he was going to bait her, and that, damn it, she would bite. "Do you have a problem, Matthew?" Her tone was soft and faintly bored. "No problem, Lorelei." He watched the annoyance flare into her eyes at his use of her full name. "Don't you have a murder or armed robbery to go play with?" His mouth curved, charmingly, deepening the creases in his face. "Not at the moment. Off your soapbox for the day?" She gritted her teeth on a spate of furious words. He never failed to dig for the emotion that seeped into her work, and she never failed to defend it. "Not this time," Laurel told herself as she balled her hands into fists under her desk. "I leave the cynicism to you, Matthew," she returned with a sweetness belied by the daggers in her eyes. "You're so good at it." "Yeah. How about a bet on whose story makes page 1? She lifted one fragile arched brow, a gesture he particularly admired. "I wouldn't want to take your money, Matthew." "I don't mind taking yours." Grinning, he rose to walk around their desk and bend down to her ear. $5, Magnolia Blossom. Even though your papa owns the paper, our editors know the difference between reporting and crusading. He felt the heat rise, heard the soft hiss of breath. It was tempting, very tempting, to crush his mouth onto those soft, pouting lips and taste the fury. Even as the need worked into him, Matt reminded himself that wasn't the way to outwit her. "You're on, Bates, but make it 10. Laurel stood. It infuriated her that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. It infuriated her more that the eyes were confident, amused, and beautiful. Laurel fell back on the habit of imagining him short, rotund, and balding. "Unless that's too rich for your blood," she added. "Anything to oblige, love." He curled the tips of her hair around his finger. "And to prove even Yankees have chivalry, I'll buy you lunch with my winnings." She smiled at him, leaning a bit closer so that their bodies just brushed. Matt felt the surprising jolt of heat shoot straight through his system. "When hell freezes over," Laurel told him, then shoved him aside. Matt watched her storm away. Then, dipping his hands into his pockets, he laughed. In the confusion of the city room, no one noticed. "Damn," Laurel swore as she maneuvered her car through the choking downtown traffic. Matthew Bates was the most irritating man she'd ever known. Squeezing through on an amber light, she cursed fate. If her brother Kurt hadn't met him in college, Matthew would never have accepted the position.